My least favorite thing about League of Legends is the off season of how esports is handled, because there really is no such thing as the off season, or it happens during the worst freaking time in the world. I didn't want to make this video. Originally, I had planned to talk about it whenever C9 addressed their rumors, or well, the rumors about C9 came out. Then I was like, you know what? No, probably best that I just don't talk about it yet. But now, as of 5 minutes ago, Sheep Esports has leaked that apparently G2 is going to be moving on from both Yike and Mickey X, and are allowing them to explore options and become basically unrestricted free agents, no buyout. Okay, well, I take that back. Not unrestricted, no buyout is definitely different than unrestricted. G2 could block them from going to certain teams entirely. G2 still controls the trade in every way, shape, or form, given that the G2 players are on contract for longer periods of time. Oh, dude, I hate this. I hate this for so many reasons. Like, the Cloud9 one, I was going to talk about separately, but this one just emphasizes the point even further of why does this have to happen during Worlds? Why? There is an answer, so let's be fair and address that. Visa issues are notably a problem. If either one of these two players want to go to North America, realistically, they have to start talking to those teams now and start getting the ball set in motion to get the immigration process kicked off and rolling, because America sucks when it comes to our immigration process. They might even miss parts of the winter split if they were coming over here, but you have to get that ball rolling. And for the players, teams are already making moves right now. Like, we already know this. We saw the signs of Fudge going to Shopify Rebellion. We'll talk about like actual like off-season rumors in the future, but like for G2, like the pictures are fresh. These are still coming out right now of the G2 players crying, and the interviews that they gave yesterday are still being published today, and you're already announcing that they're moving on. Oh, dude, it just feels disrespectful. Now, I did make this comment directly to LEC Wooloo on Twitter. Whenever news was announced before, I put out that, I just don't like this. I don't like this cycle. And basically, the answer that was kind of given back was like, yeah, it kind of is what it is. Look, I'm a part of the LCS media, and I understand me making this video and talking about it to a certain extent is part of the problem, but I'm doing this to raise awareness because I think everything needs to change. Starting with Sheep Esports, starting with all the leakers, I don't think you should be leaking this stuff this quick. I really do. I think there needs to be respect given to a certain extent. I get you're chasing the clicks. I get you're chasing the clout that comes with the ability to break this news first the second it happens, rather than sit on it and be like, yeah, we were sitting on it for a week. But it just feels disrespectful, as these players found out apparently within like the last 2 hours, according to Don Jake, that they were being cut, and already it's plastered all over social media. You don't give the players any time to process the emotion of what's happening, because it's not like they can fully make moves. Maybe European teams can, because they're all in the off season right now, but it's not like every team around the world is open right now, so you don't know what talent's going to become available. I think most of Gen G, for example, are becoming free agents. What if G2 wants to pursue one of them? Like, there's complications to this. So everybody starting their off season at random points in time is just wild to me. We are in this era where you just chase the attention and clout on social media. And by all means, I get it. I do. Trust me, I'm doing all this too. But there's got to be a line that we draw, right? There's got to be a point where you say, okay, enough is enough, and we wait for things to come out. That whole Jojo situation hits the nail on the head as well, because it's like, okay, we didn't know whether this might have been a health issue or an actual contract issue. This might have gone to litigation, as Jojo and the LCSPA and lawyers, whoever might be involved, might step in. But the leak comes out from Dom about how Jojo missed like 40 or was late to 42 different scrims, and that was the reason for the internal firing with cause. And it's like, okay, why all this stuff is coming out. C9's apparently moving on, making roster moves during this time. It's like, dude, like, why don't we wait for the full story? Because then, like, assumptions got thrown around, and the whole conversation got lost in various different aspects that were getting leaked at different points in time. Realistically, the answer to all of this comes from Riot. Riot needs to be willing to put their foot down and make rules that would ban this from happening. or at least discourage it, because you're not going to be able to stop it. Players are going to talk to each other. That's naturally going to happen. If Mickey X and Yike, for example, got indications that they were going to probably be cut from G2 prior to this tournament, because I'm telling you right now, G2 doesn't make this announcement without it already being pre-planned. You don't say within 24 hours, hey, you're gone. That's not just a random decision that you make on emotion. This shit was like fully vetted out and like gonna happen no matter what. So those players were probably trying to talk to other people beforehand, but Riot should really make a rule or something to just say, hey, no conversations about next year and teams next year until X date, or at least until like the day after World, like 2 days after Worlds is over. I think would be like the best way of saying it, because then everybody at that time can talk. All the teams are done. Teams that are going to be making roster changes in the World's Finals, which you might think, oh, a team that's going to make World's Finals probably won't make all that many roster changes. Look at DRX from 2 years ago. Gen G this year with their contracts. That stuff can happen, and it impacts every region. So if you're C9, for example, say they've already made a move on a mid laner, but then all of a sudden Chovy becomes available and you want to throw your name in the hat, well, you've already committed to another player elsewhere, which is the whole verbal agreement debacle that we've consistently had here in North America. The whole system is just screwed up. Like, as a team, wouldn't you want to wait until all options are open? As a player, like, I get why some of them might want to book gigs on top teams as soon as possible, lock your job, lock your role, but for a team, that just seems like a dumb decision, no? I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't know if it's a fine from Riot's side. I don't know if it's some sort of punishment of, like, if you do this stuff, maybe you can't play. Like, Riot has to approve all contracts. If you find out or somebody submits evidence that somebody was, talking to other people beforehand, before like the free agency period opens up, while they were under contract without, dude, there's so much crap on going. It's just like, you can make all these rules, you can do all these things, I can propose all these ideas, but at the end of the day, none of it matters if we don't all universally come together and agree that these things need to happen at different periods of time, and we need to compartmentalize what is like tournament time and letting people have the emotion of dealing with losing the tournament, knowing that their season's over, everything else, and then just giving them space to breathe so that then they can make the right decision that's not emotionally based, that's not just fueled from the immediate aftermath of being eliminated from the biggest tournament in the world, the thing that you've been building for 10 months and just stressing out over. Like, just wait a little bit. Look, regardless of whether you're a professional League of Legends player or if you're, Joe Schmo trying to get a 9-to-5 job, or those of us that like went to college and had to deal with like career fairs and multiple rounds of interviews for internships and full-time jobs and everything. Like, if there's one thing that is like somewhat nice about that, in my opinion, it's like there are timelines that you typically know of. Like, using my experience in public accounting, you knew that you had to land your job within like the first semester of that you going in, typically your junior or senior year. For me in grad school, is like you go in, you immediately start networking, trying to get your job, you interview and everything else, and then it allows you the rest of the year to focus on the things that you need to do to then get ready for said job. I know it's not a one-to-one applicable situation here, obviously, but I just think about the emotion that came with that and the stress that came with just trying to find a job like that. And for these players trying to pick between teams, trying to have options. I mean, granted, they have agents and their pay is a lot higher than most of us get. Like, they're not making millions upon millions anymore. They're making a couple $100,000 for some of the bigger name players. For those below that, maybe close to just barely over 6 figures. But at a human level, they're still dealing with the emotion of not knowing whether they're going to have a job next year, whether they have security, because contracts in esports ultimately mean nothing nowadays. I don't understand. I get from the org side, Cloud9 and G2 like signing their players to multi-year deals only to cut them after a year, because you can spread out what it sounds like a big dollar value over the course of several years. You can actually backload it if you want. I highly doubt player agents and players are like that out of the loop that they would sign those deals. You would hope it would just be spread evenly. But there's ways for teams to manipulate the money so that there's less up front, or they take less of a financial burden. When you look back at some of these like multi-million-dollar contracts over several years, it's like, okay, but you only paid one and some of that was guaranteed money and the rest wasn't. But for the players, you then restrict your options, you restrict your ability to do anything, and you know that there's a chance that the team cuts you after a single year. And it's not like you have all that much guaranteed money either. Like, for the players, the only thing I would say is, like, I know you guys you should be in a position now. No, the leagues, And teams have less money than they ever have before. Their negotiating power is going out the dang window. I mean, then again, spots are also dropping, so it's not, there's more players for less spots, so the teams, in theory, counteract that power. Dude, this whole system is in trouble. Jesus Christ. I mean, I get it. We're young, we're a sport, we're still developing, and all of this is complicated. Nobody has the right answers, nobody has the right solutions, but just I feel like we really need to do a better job of just keeping the human emotion as the number one thing that we care about, and just keeping in mind that we are all people, regardless of whether you're Jack the CEO, Jojo the player, Mickey X the player, Romain the GM, doesn't matter, or even like the fan. Like, just remember, like, everybody in this ecosystem is a person with their own human emotions. Just why don't we give people more time to deal with that? That's all I'm saying. Let's get back to Worlds and hopefully not have to talk about this again sometime soon.